I almost sold all of my XRP last week. I was literally hovering over the sell button until one tweet from Raoul Pal actually stopped me in my tracks. Now, Raoul Pal, if you don't know, is kind of a legend in investing circles. He used to run hedge funds, and now he's the CEO of Global Macro Investor. Now, when he kind of talks crypto, people tend to listen. So, when Raoul basically said, hey, altcoins like XRP are about to enter a new growth phase as money rotates out of Bitcoin, you bet that I perked up. Now, in his latest update, he described the whole crypto market like a waiting room. So picture a bunch of crypto projects sitting in a doctor's office then, waiting for their turn. Ethereum's number got called first, right? ETH already left the waiting room and skyrocketed. It's nearly up 70% since July to a new all-time high. Now, he says that Solana is about to leave next, then some newbie called 𝗗𝗶𝘀𝗰 after that. But here's the part that kind of gave me goosebumps. Raoul Pal said that XRP isn't waiting anymore. It's already moving in what he calls a full port phase, straight to higher levels. So in plain English, he's hinting that XRP's turn to blast off might finally be here. Now, as someone who's held XRP for ages, through all of the ups, downs, and endless sideways action, hearing that kind of felt like a shot of espresso to the soul. Now, could this really be it? Are we on the verge of that massive XRP breakout that we've all been dreaming about for years? I needed to find out if Raoul was onto something real or just blowing hot air. So I did what any sane crypto nerd would do. I dove into the data and into the community, and what I found absolutely blew my mind. Now, before I get into the nitty-gritty, I have to share this. The moment that I saw Raoul's tweet, I bolted into our Discord server. It's a free educational community, and the link, of course, is in the description down below. Now, I was like, guys, am I crazy, or did Raoul Pal just basically hint that XRP's about to go wild? Within seconds, the Discord chat exploded. Right? I wasn't the only one getting that vibe. Dozens of fellow XRP holders were freaking out, posting rocket emojis and mind-blown GIFs. It was like we all caught the same fever all at once. Now, if you haven't been in a Discord when big news drops, just imagine a sports bar when the underdog makes a comeback. That was us, but with crypto charts. It was electric. So let's break down exactly what Raoul Pal said and why it's got everyone from casual traders to hardcore XRP army veterans so hyped. So here's the backdrop. Bitcoin had an absolutely monstrous run recently, smashing up to new all-time highs around $124,000. Crazy, I know. But then, like a classic cycle, Bitcoin started to cool off and pull back just a little bit. And if you've been around crypto a little while, you know that that often signals altcoin season. The idea is that when Bitcoin takes a bit of a breather, a lot of that profit and attention flows into alternative coins. It's kind of like money saying, all right, BTC, you have a rest. I'm going to see what else can pump. Now, we've seen it in past cycles. Bitcoin runs, then stalls, and that's when alts often have their day in the sun. Now, Raoul Pal is basically saying that we're at that point right now, right? He literally called the market a waiting room, with assets just taking their turns. Now, Ethereum's already had its turn, and man, did it ever. Now, here's looking at who's next. He specifically pointed to Solana as the next one gearing up, and then 𝗗𝗶𝘀𝗰, which, if you haven't heard of, is a newer platform coin. But then Raoul turned to XRP and said, XRP is already in the process of full porting to higher levels. Now, full porting, I know it's a bit of a weird term, isn't it? I had to kind of think about it quite a bit here. It sounds like something to do with boats or maybe computer ports, right? But context-wise, he actually means that XRP is fully entering its growth phase, like moving out of the waiting room and onto the launch pad. Now, I'll admit, at first I raised a bit of an eyebrow. XRP has teased us before. So for example, back in July of this year, it rallied to about 35% in a flash, and everyone thought that the rockets were finally firing off. And then August came and basically just snoozed, dropping a few percentage points and going quiet again. Now, the story of XRP's life, right? So hearing another bold call about XRP taking off, I was cautiously intrigued. I needed evidence. Well, Raoul kind of brought receipts here. Now, he shared his long-term XRP chart on a weekly time frame that goes all the way back to 2014. And what it showed made my jaw kind of drop. Right, XRP's price history, it kind of turns out, is like Groundhog Day. There's a clear pattern that's played out not once, not twice, but multiple times. Basically, long periods of consolidation, right? We're talking years of sideways, kind of drowsy movements inside big chart formations like triangles or wedges, followed by explosive breakouts, and when those patterns obviously finally resolve. Now, then there's just a rinse and a repeat. So let's rewind the tape. First big cycle, 2014 to 2017. Now, XRP was stuck in this kind of descending triangle for almost 3 years, right? Just imagine, from your perspective today, XRP sitting at under 1 cent for years. It was like watching paint dry. And I'm sure, right? But late 2016, early 2017, it started tightening up, pressure building, and then boom, it broke out of that triangle and went on the now legendary bull run to around $3.86 at the peak in January of 2018. So we are talking massive, life-changing gains for those who held through the rather boredom stages. That was cycle number 1. After that blow-off top in 2018, of course, it came the crash. Nothing new in crypto. XRP went from $3 plus down to something like 10 cents at the lows over the next couple of years. It entered another long funk from 2018 to 2020. But here's the thing. On the chart, the crash formed a falling wedge pattern. Now, if you're not a chart nerd, just know that falling wedges often signal a trend that is about to reverse, right? At least upwards. So it's kind of like the last phase of sellers kind of giving up. And sure enough, by late 2020, XRP broke out upwards out of that wedge. 2021 comes around and bam, XRP rallies up to about $1.96 by April of 2021. Not as high as the previous $3.86 peak, but still a huge bounce from the lows around 10 to 20 cents. That was cycle number 2. Then, from mid-2021 onwards, XRP kind of went into hibernation once again. Now, if you held through it, you know the pain. Basically, 2021, 2022, 2023, XRP was grinding in this kind of broad range, making lower highs, higher lows, squeezing into another giant descending triangle. And by late 2024, and you wouldn't, know it, right? In November of 2024, it finally broke upwards out of that triangle, and once it broke out, it kind of moved, right? And it blasted through the $1 barrier, then the $2, and even $3 in a hurry. That was late last year, and it really felt like, wow, XRP is back. So here we are now. XRP has been hovering just under the $3 lately after that big run. And what it's been doing the past few months? Well, consolidating again, of course. This time it's not a multi-year triangle. It's more like a smaller triangle or a pennant pattern on the charts, since at least the breakout. So picture a little triangle coiling up right under the $3 level, right? Chartists love pennants because they often mean continuation, i.e. the trend might continue after this little pit stop. That's exactly what Raoul Pal is suggesting here. The XRP is in a full port, full acceleration process. And this tight consolidation is like a rocket refueling on the launch pad. So if XRP can punch above the upper boundary of this mini triangle, well, that would confirm the breakout is still unfolding and we're likely entering the next stage of the rally. So in that scenario, right, we would be talking about XRP prices that we haven't seen before, maybe $5, maybe even higher, who knows. Now, on the flip side, if XRP fails to hold its structure and breaks down instead, it could actually slide back to the breakout zone around $1.70 to $2 to kind of regroup. Now that would be disappointing, right? At least in the short term, but it wouldn't necessarily kill the long-term story. It might just delay it. So we've got this kind of pivotal moment then, right? Either breakout and party time, or fake out and one more visit to the bargain basement before potentially rising again. Now, as I'm kind of absorbing all of this, the repeating cycles, the current setup, I felt my excitement rising. It's almost eerie how the patterns repeat. Part of me was thinking, is this universe giving XRP holders a third shot at this? I mean, if history were to rhyme one more time, we could be on the cusp of something huge. No joke, I had my phone in my hand, I opened up my 𝗗𝗀𝘀𝗰𝗍 app, that's the exchange that I use to trade these days, and I nearly kind of smashed that buy button just to increase my XRP position. And by the way, just to kind of be totally transparent here, I do have an affiliate link for 𝗗𝗀𝘀𝗰𝗍 in the description, so if you do go ahead and use it, it helps support the channel at no extra cost to yourself. Much appreciated, of course, if you do go ahead and sign up and trade on it. But yeah, like there I was, literally just about to FOMO into more XRP because this analysis had me all fired up. Then the little voice in my head goes, "Easy there, Tiger. Remember the rules." And that's kind of when I had to hit pause and remind myself, and now I'll remind all of you as well. This might shock you, but I'm not a financial advisor, and nothing in this video is financial advice. Cryptocurrencies are highly volatile, and you could lose all of the money that you invest. It's important that you always do your own research and consult a qualified professional. After all, your investments are entirely your responsibility, and you should know that nothing is ever guaranteed when it comes to investing. Neither I, this channel, nor YouTube are liable for any losses, and this video today is for entertainment and educational purposes only. Alright, so we had to get that out there. I know it was a bit of a buzzkill, but it's super important. Now, I'm pumped about XRP's prospects, but that doesn't mean that you can go out and bet the farm. Right? We are just talking possibilities and my personal opinions here. So, disclaimer is done. Let's talk about why Raoul Pal is so bullish beyond just charts then. Because the charts alone are compelling, but there's more to this story that gave me confidence. Now, Raoul is a macro guy, right? Meaning that he looks at the big picture trends in the economy and the markets. One thing that he's highlighted is the relationship between Bitcoin and global liquidity. Right, bear with me here. Right, there's a measure called the M2 money supply. Basically, all of the cash and easily accessible money in the system. Now, historically, Bitcoin's price has tracked global M2 pretty closely, with about a 12-week lag. Now, in other words, when governments and central banks flood the economy with money, think low interest rates, stimulus, money printer going brr, right? A few months later, Bitcoin tends to surge. And after Bitcoin surges, altcoins often follow. So we kind of saw that this year. Lots of liquidity, Bitcoin ripped to a new high, and now, fingers crossed, maybe it's the altcoin turn. Now, Raoul pointed out that right now, the global liquidity backdrop is extremely strong. The US, China, Japan, Europe, they all have massive debts, and frankly, their economies can't handle high interest rates for too long without things breaking. So the bet is that they'll have to keep money relatively easy and flowing. right? We've already seen some of this. Even if they're raising rates in 2025, they'll also be doing things like quantitative easing on the side, injecting cash when needed. And China's been stimulating. Japan's always printing. And all that kind of means there's a lot of fuel in the tank for assets like crypto. He also mentioned other pieces of the puzzle: regulatory improvements, sovereign wealth funds accumulating crypto, and Wall Street's growing acceptance of digital assets. Now, I mean, a few years ago, the idea of something like a Bitcoin ETF or major banks offering crypto was laughable. Now, we have multiple Bitcoin spot ETF filings and even talk of Ethereum's ETFs performing well. Wall Street wants in, right? They're itching for a piece of the action. This is all creating what Raoul calls an environment similar to 2017's bull run, which was one of the wildest, most euphoric times for altcoins ever. Now, on top of it, Raoul's analysis suggests that this crypto cycle might have a longer runway than previous ones. Right? Instead of a peak at the end of 2025, his data now indicates that we could run well into early 2026, maybe even Q2 of 2026. He nicknamed the strongest growth period the banana zone, which basically started around August of 2024. Don't ask me why banana. Maybe because things go bananas. But the gist is that we might be only midway through this bullish ride. And if that is true, well, the coming months could see an acceleration in the altcoin rally, XRP included. Now, before we all start seeing $10 signs in our eyes, let me bring in a reality check from someone else that I respect. Bill Morgan, a lawyer and XRP community advocate. Now, Bill saw all of this full pool XRP chatter and basically said, look, its fancy terms don't pump our bags. XRP's price will move if there's real demand, adoption, and positive sentiment, not just because Raoul Pal gave it a cool name. In fact, I have this direct quote: full porting does not directly impact price. XRP's value depends on adoption, demand, and market sentiment. And he's right. Charts alone don't drive value. People do. So let's consider fundamentals for a second here. XRP's big claim to fame is being a bridge currency for international payments, with Ripple, the company, building partnerships with banks and payment providers. That's why it's often called the banker's coin. Now, have we seen real adoption lately? There have been plenty of promising developments. Southeast Asia, Middle East, some banks and remittance companies are using it or testing XRP, or at least Ripple's tech. And crucially, the legal cloud in the US cleared up just a little bit when that judge ruled that XRP itself is not a security for retail sales, and all of those appeals were dropped. That opened the door for US exchanges to relist XRP. Now, these are positive fundamental drivers, but Bill's point stands here. Right? If nobody actually ends up using XRP, or if the crypto market sentiment turns negative, even the prettiest chart pattern will collapse. But let's be rather clear here. All chart patterns are doing are tracking people's behavior. It's tracking the sentiment of people. Now, at the moment, the charts are looking like the sentiment is going to shift and be positive, and traders are going to jump on in. But there's no guarantee of this. Things can change rather dramatically. And that is Bill's point here. You've got to keep an eye on both the chart patterns as well as the fundamentals. So it's good to stay grounded and watch all of the fundamental signals too. All right, so where does this leave me then? Well, honestly, I'm feeling guardedly kind of optimistic, right? On one hand, I see convergence, right, of all of these things that I've never seen quite line up like this for XRP. A bullish setup, technical setup, and a supportive macro environment and improving fundamentals. Right? It's kind of like the stars are aligning here. It's hard to get, at least not to get, too excited, like butterflies in your stomach excited. And on the other hand, of course, experience has taught me not to get too carried away and not to count my chickens before they have hatched. This is crypto, after all. Things can go wrong often when you least expect it. So my plan is to stay level-headed. I'm not selling my XRP at this point. There's just no way. I've held this too long. I want to see how this story actually plays out. and I might even accumulate a little more if we get clear confirmations of an uptrend. For example, if we smash through the $3 level, with conviction, or if some big news hits, well, that will be the money, that I'm okay risking, but not my rent money or anything dumb, right? If conversely XRP dips back to $2 or under $2, I will be, of course, a little disappointed, sure, but I won't be shocked either. The fact is that I might just view it as a bit of a fire sale situation and consider averaging my buys just a little bit more, assuming the big picture thesis is still intact. Basically, I'm preparing for either outcome, blast off or one more fake out, emotionally and financially prepared. And that's important in this game. Now, one thing that makes it easier to stay sane through all of this chatter with you is this, right? Seriously, it's our Discord community, and it has been amazing for sharing perspectives and keeping each other rational. If you're not in there just yet, then I really encourage you all to join, right? The link, of course, is down in the description, and it's totally free. Whether you're an XRP true believer or just a crypto curious kind of guy, you'll find people who bounce ideas off of, right? And I'm in there pretty much every single day, right? 24/7, 365. And I've gotten both support and reality checks from the crew. Like when I was about to FOMO hard into a green candle one time, someone in Discord was like, bro, zoom out, don't chase. By support. And they were right. I chilled out. It's kind of like having a gym buddy, but for crypto decisions. It keeps you accountable for your decisions. So let's wrap this up, this wild story. What is the takeaway here? Well, for me, it's a renewed appreciation for patience and the bigger picture. XRP just tested our patience, and probably more than any major crypto out there. It became a bit of a joke in 2022 and 2023, the one that didn't rally while others did. But all of the time, the groundwork might have been quietly laying for this moment. If Raoul Pal's waiting room analogy holds true, then XRP's number is finally being called. And whether it's this week or a month from now, if the macro flows keep pushing and the pattern holds, we could be in for a hell of a ride. Now, Raoul's words, keep echoing for me. People need to learn patience. It's the pattern that counts. That's him basically saying, don't expect it all at once, but know where we're heading. Now, I think he's right. I also think that Bill Morgan is right, that we should keep an eye on the real world adoption, both the story on the charts and the story off of the charts, and how they are pointing in positive directions for XRP right now. So if you found this video useful, informative, make sure to smash that like button, subscribe for the next one, and I'll catch you then.